Good evening and welcome to this digitally enabled online meeting of the Council of the Municipality of North Perth, held on Monday, January 24th, 2022. I'm Mayor Todd Kasenberg and I'll call this meeting to order. I ask the clerk to note our starting time for the minutes as 7 p.m. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the Anishinaabe peoples. We wish to recognize the long history of Indigenous peoples in Canada and show our respect to them today. We recognize their stewardship of the land. May we all live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship. Tonight's meeting is being streamed live on the Municipality of North Perth YouTube channel and will be available there after the meeting as an archived video. Anyone who is invited to speak will be recorded and their voice, image, and comments will form part of the live stream. The chair and/or the clerk have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances when deemed relevant. Circumstances may include instances where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory, or potentially inappropriate to be published. Thank you. Welcome to those who are joining us via the YouTube channel. Welcome to councillors, staff, and delegations who will participate in tonight's meeting. At this time, I invite your decorum over the course of the coming meeting. I don't have any attendance regrets tonight. To my knowledge, all are in attendance. So let us move to item 2.1 of our agenda pertaining to pecuniary interest. For the benefit of those who are unfamiliar with our council practices, provincial legislation requires councillors with a potential pecuniary or financial interest in any item at the council table to declare this interest and to remove her or himself from discussions and voting on the item. In accordance with recommended protocol at this time, I invite all councillors with potential pecuniary interest, including those who have declared already writing, to verbally advise the chair in public session and to submit documentation, if not already done, to the clerk. Councillors are further reminded that should a potential conflict arise during the meeting, they may so declare and act at any point in the meeting. Let us begin tonight with Councillor Anstett. Welcome, Councillor Anstett. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Kasenberg. Through you this evening, I'd like to declare a pecuniary interest on item 5.5.1, the accounts, specifically the daycare accounts, as my son attends the St. Mary's daycare, and also on item 13.1, the confirmatory bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Anstett. Next up is Councillor Behrens. Welcome, Councillor Behrens.
Thank you, Mayor Kasenberg. Good evening, Council. This evening, I have a number of declarations. First of all, 5.5.1, specifically the daycare accounts, as I have grandchildren attending the North Perth Spinrite Child and Family Center, as well as after-school programming. 5.7.1 and 8.4, as they are the Reed, Bearfelts, and Hood drains, and I have family members assessed on those drains. And subsequent to that, 13.1, the confirmatory bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Behrens. Next up is Deputy Mayor Kellum. Welcome, Deputy Mayor.
Good evening, Mayor Kasenberg, as well all of councillors. Yes, I would like to declare pecuniary interest also on item 5.5.1 regards to the accounts. 2 items, specifically the daycare, as both of my grandchildren now attend the child care center, and then Perth Meadows, as my mother and father-in-law are tenants of Perth Meadows, and then subsequently 13.1, the confirmatory bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Those are the ones that I was aware of ahead of the meeting. Are there any others at this time? We're not seeing any evidence of that. So let's get on with the explanation of our virtual processes. Tonight, I will be systematically trying to seek consent from various councillors as movers and seconders of the various resolutions and bylaws that will be put before us. I will do this to some degree alphabetically. Should a councillor not wish to respond to the request, they may say so, and I will move on to the next name on the alphabetical list. Regarding speaking to our business, councillors tonight will identify themselves through our conferencing technologies text chat function. The clerk is assisting me in maintaining the speaking order from that source. Councillors are allowed on their turn to deliver a primary comment or question and may make one supplemental without intervention from me. We will follow speaking order carefully, and any councillor wishing to have a second say after their first two kicks at the can will have to indicate again and go to the bottom of the list. This is a normal process consistent with Robert's Rules of Order. Councillors are reminded that if I believe you're not audible, I will let you know. Councillors are further asked to maintain a mute state in the web conference until I have called upon you for a verbal reaction. Should any of your votes not show up in eScribe, our voting technology, I will call on you when things seem stalled to register a manual vote. At that time, take yourself off mute, answer yes or no on the motion, and then return to mute. That moves us along to item 2.2 of our agenda. I have a motion before me for the adoption of the agenda that reads as follows, that the agenda for tonight's meeting be approved. Let's start tonight with Councillor Richardson. Welcome, Councillor Richardson. Will you serve as our mover for that?
I would move that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Rothwell, welcome. Will you serve as our seconder for that?
Yes, thanks very much, Mayor Todd. Welcome to you as well. I'm willing to second that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or debate on our agenda setting here? If not, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you very much. That brings us to item number 3 on our agenda, the so-called consent agenda. These items are placed on our agenda because they are believed to be non-contentious, yet they require council's recognition and or action. Grouping them does tend to expedite our business. However, any councillor wishing to extract an item from the consent agenda for discussion, debate, and individual action may do so. There are 12 items on our consent agenda tonight, including the minutes of our last regular meeting. Councillors, do any of you have a desire to extract any of these items for further discussion or action? Councillor Rothwell is first, I think. Councillor Rothwell.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I'd like to have discussion on item 3.9.
Noted. Thank you, Councillor Rothwell. Who's
Thank
next?
you.
Serious now? Okay, so it looks like we have a chorus of you who are interested in 3.9. I hope you sing bass and tenor well. So 3.9 is the item that we will extract. I think with council's consent, why don't we open discussion on that particular item and then see if we can't do the single stroke resolution after this with any fallout resolutions coming from a discussion of 3.9. Let's start then. Councillor Rothwell, you wanted 3.9 pulled. Did you wish to address this?
Thanks very much, Mayor Todd. I just want to know if we can refer this matter through to staff or report back in terms of whether or not we as North Perth have received this request in previous years, or if this is the first time we've received this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rothwell. Seems like a reasonable course of action to me. Councillor Johnston and Councillor Anstead, I see both of you had indicated interest in 3.9 as well. Councillor Johnston, did you want to speak to this matter?
My question was much the same as Alan's. Just have we ever received something like this before? Do we pay it? You know, can we track our own rec facilities and send them a bill back that's bigger than the one they sent us? Just want to kind of get a ballpark what's going on.
Okay, thank you. So it sounds to me like you are not opposed to Councillor Rothwell's idea to refer this to staff for some more input. Councillor Anstead, did you wish to address this one?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Kasenberg. Through you, just similar to what Councillor Rothwell and Councillor Johnson said, I'm just looking for some more information on this. At the outset, reading it, I had several questions, and I think a report from staff would be very helpful in before we move forward with this. Thank you.
Thank you. So it seems like there are some who wish a report. Anyone else from council wish to speak to 3.9 before we we consider this item. I think we're not seeing any. I think CEO Snell, would it be acceptable for us to just add an amendment to the primary motion, which hasn't been floored yet, that directs the staff a query about 3.9? Is that right? We just write that. Okay, Councillor Rothwell, I understand you have another. You want to have another shot at this?
Thanks, Mayor Todd, and not to prolong matters. Certainly, I think it's important. Item 3.11, just a statement to say that I understand the staff and administration are very excited about the provincial announcement from MPP Pettapiece regarding the major addition plan for Listowel Eastdale Elementary School. I think that's crucial. But the other item I'd like to see pulled is item 3.12, is the request for a community garden, and much the same. I'd like to see if there's support for a staff report on that. Thank you.
So I'm going to we have in that room here. 3.9 and 3.12. 3.12. We'll ask the staff for a report related to those matters. There is a serious echo. Is your microphone open? Okay. Someone isn't muted. So I don't know if we have a way of checking that. Okay, Councillor Rothwell, I agree that we should consider that. So why don't we throw that into a motion to see where it goes? With regards to 3.11, was there specific action that you wished taken?
No, Mayor Todd, I just think it was important, just a statement of acknowledgement and excitement regarding the announcement. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Anyone else on the consent agenda before we consider sort of a collected resolution here, modified from what we see in the council package, but that allows us to tackle 3.9 and 3.12? We see anything else, CEO Snell, from anybody? Okay, so I have a resolution that I'll read into the minutes as follows. The consent items 3.1 to 3.12 be received for information, and the minutes of the January 10th, 2022 regular council meeting be adopted, and that council directs staff to prepare reports related to items 3.9 and 3.12. Can I call on Councillor Seiler to be our mover for that one?
Yes, I'll move that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Andreessen, sorry, welcome, Terry. And Councillor Andreessen, welcome tonight. Can I call on you to be our seconder for that?
Yes, I'll second that motion. Thank you.
Very much. All right, any discussion or debate on this one? I think the clerking team is catching up with us, so we're not seeing any discussion or debate. If we're ready, let's have that. And that is carried. Thank you very much. Let us move down the road here. At this time, it's proposed we move to agenda item number 4. This evening, we have the opportunity to conduct 2 public meetings related to drainage matters. And we also have a delegation to council this evening. So in order to facilitate all of this, in particular, the 2 public meetings at this point in time, we must temporarily adjourn from our regular council meeting. I have a resolution to make that happen that reads as follows. The Council of the Municipality of North Perth adjourns at 7:15 p.m. for the purpose of public meetings under the Drainage Act, serving the following. Public meeting to consider the Logan Maitland drain report, and a public meeting to consider the Hamilton Green Municipal drain report. Can I call on Councillor Anstett to be our mover for that one?
Yes, I would move that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Behrens, will you serve as seconder?
Yes, I will second that motion. Thanks.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate? We're not seeing evidence of that, so let's have that vote. And that is carried. Council, the effect of that resolution is to move us out of our regular council meeting and into the opportunity zone for public meetings. So let me begin. We are going to talk first about the Logan Maitland Municipal Drain. This is the consideration of the report for that in public meeting. It is a drainage report. I would like to welcome any who have indicated ahead of time who are landowners to this meeting. The opportunity now is for the public to consider with council the report from the engineer. Tonight, this report is produced by Brandon Widener, who is of Street Associates Limited. It's my pleasure to welcome Brandon. The floor is yours.
Good evening, everybody. Tonight we have the Logan Maitland Drain realignment. This is a project near your village of Moncton. It's just east of the village. It's on the existing Logan Maitland Drain, which was a report submitted by our office in 1984. This is a large open ditch. Additionally, one thing to note, this drain does do some work on what is called the Moncton branch of the Logan Maitland Drain, which was a more recent drain constructed in 2000 by Jeff Dixon and Andy McBride. And this third part of the town of Moncton. So the works are all on one person's property. That is the requester's property. It's under 2 AT Farms Limited, and it's represented by the Toners. The Toners have asked for the ditch in their land to be relocated adjacent to the property lines. That is the west and the property line along the railway. Now on the west side of that farm is where the existing Moncton branch was. So the plan was to utilize that and deepen it, and then construct a new ditch adjacent the old railway. I believe it's a trail now. And the ditch would be just north of that to connect in with the existing Logan Maitland. So this is very similar to the Wilson drain, which we presented a couple weeks ago. This one is a little bit larger. It's approximately 840 meters of ditch to be relocated. The total project cost is about $82,000. And that is all assessed to the one landowner, 2 AT Farms Limited. And this project is eligible for grant. About half the project is deepening of the existing Moncton drain. And then the other half is new ditch construction along the railway. And this is a substantial ditch, which ranges anywhere from 5 to 8 feet deep. And it's all assessed to one landowner. It does encompass land from West Perth. So somebody from West Perth will have to be at the quarter revision. If anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Widener. At this time, as council has heard, there is but a single landowner who's been assessed. He is with us. It seems his role is to answer questions if council has any, but I don't believe he otherwise has comments to make unless they're instigated by us. So at this time, council, do you have any questions? Are we seeing anything, Clerk? CAO Snell. Right. Wearing many hats, Mr. Snell. Okay, Mr. Tolinar, just so that I'm not mistaken. Huh? Oh, Dave Johnston has a question. Okay, Councillor Johnston.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Just a question for Brandon on the quarter revision. So then would we go with a 3-member court with 1 from West Perth and 2 from North Perth?
That's what we'd recommend. I know sometimes you guys have 5. A 3-person will be fine. And I'll be honest, if Mr. Toner, who's paying the entire cost, is probably happy, I don't see us receiving any appeals.
Thank you very much. And CAO Snell confirms that that seems to be the right strategy. All right. Just to check with the assessed landowner, did you wish to say anything? This certainly is an opportunity. We don't want to close that off to you. But if you don't, that's fine as well. Okay. I'm not seeing any indication of that desire. So at this time, are there any further questions from council? We're not seeing any COs, no, okay. So at this time, we're not seeing evidence of anyone withdrawing. No significant concerns have been raised. We've heard the procedural one, which has been addressed. So I believe that this public meeting can be adjourned. It allows us to tackle public meeting number 2, also for the consideration of a drainage report. This one, the Hamilton Green Municipal Drain. Again, welcome to any who have joined us of the assessed landowners for this drain. Again, our expert here is Brandon Widener with Street Associates. And Mr. Widener, I turn the floor over to you at this time.
Okay, so the next one we have is the Hamilton and the Green Drain. These are two separate drain entities, but the Hamilton Drain is an open ditch, an existing open ditch, and the Green Drain is an existing tile drain. The original request we received was from the landowner Gresta Limited. They have a large turkey operation on line 84, and that was for improvement of the Green Drain. The Green Drain then outlets on the west end of that property into the Hamilton Drain. The Hamilton Drain was a drain that was worked on by our office in 1982, and it is approximately 3 kilometers long, and it outlets down at the Maitland River. One thing to take note is the Hamilton Drain is somewhat unique. It's the only drain I've seen in a long time that encompasses almost an entire property. So if you guys look at the map, there's a property owned by A. Clare. The drain crosses line 84 at the front of their property. It then heads west, then north, then east, then south, all the way around the property. And that's the way the original report was. It's quite unique. The Green Drain then dumps into the Hamilton Drain on the west or the east side of that property. It was last reconstructed in 1968. And it consists of about 1,400 meters of 6-inch to 14-inch tile. When you read the old Green report from 1968, there's a couple things that the report itself mentions, and that is, A, there is minimal cover in Lot 6, which is the property owned by Gresta Limited, as well as the outlet at the Hamilton Drain was not very good, and there was minimal freeboard. Both of these problems still exist, and that is a lot of the reason why the existing Green Drain was so shallow. So we received a request. This drain is a little bit older. It's from late 2020. The request was from Gresta Limited, and they were dealing with ponding in the front of their lands. There's a long laneway back to a house, and it is quite low in the front, and that was indicated in the old reports. We did have a meeting at that time. There was multiple owners there. And then the drain involved a little bit. We did receive an additional request from Mr. Green himself. He was on the original drain. That farm's still in the same name. And he requested that if work was going to be done, we bring the drain up and across line 84 into his lands. When we did do the survey on the Green Drain, we discovered that the Hamilton Drain was in need of deepening to get any decent outlet for the lands. The property of Gresta Limited, the east side of it is lower than the west side, making it a little bit of a challenge and then a good indicator why water ponds there. When you look at the Green Drain, we had to deepen it significantly to the point where the existing pipe under line 84, there's an existing pipe there. It's quite long. It's on an angle. There's a deep ditch. Well, the Hamilton Drain parallels the road. It's quite deep. That pipe was installed in our last report, which was from 1982, which is now reached the end of its life. So we're recommending replacing it. So what we have now presented tonight is an improvement in deepening of the Hamilton Drain. This starts at line 84. We will replace the existing culvert with a longer, slightly larger pipe. We will then deepen the drain all the way around the Clare property, all the way to the Green Drain. The Green Drain will then start at the new deepened ditch, The green drain is proposed to be a 27-inch tile up to the laneway of Gresta Limited. There's a large gas line down that farm lane to service that turkey operation. We have to go under that gas line. We then cross the laneway with 21-inch pipe. And the 21-inch pipe continues all the way up to the next laneway of Fisher Family Poultry. There's then the tile then becomes smaller at an 18-inch up and across the road in the Mr. Greens, and it's a 14-inch. That's not a complete replacement of the green drain. The green drain continues all the way up to Road 169. That farm is owned by Fisher Family Poultry. They were not requesting an improvement at this time, nor was the road authority. So that portion of the drain from 1968 will remain, but it is new up to their property line. We do have a DFO permit for this works. There is some, let's say, timing restrictions on that, but it's nothing, there's nothing unusual there. This project is slightly larger than the last couple projects you've seen. The total estimated cost is in the neighborhood of $293,700. Now there is a large assessment to the road. Line 84 is a paved road, so you have two special assessments on there, totaling approximately $65,000 between the two of them. Then the rest of the drain is broken out in the construction schedule. You'll see in appendix or schedule C. Now the Hamilton drain, the cost on it is approximately $130,000, with over 50 of that being the road crossing, which the township municipality will pay actual cost. And whereas the green drain is about $163,000, so it's a little bit more than half of the project. We did have a number of meetings on this project. It is one of the, let's say, older ones that have been around for the municipality. We had this for approximately a year. You know, there was some concerns with poor ground conditions in the Gresta Limited property. The local farm tiler who tiled that property indicated we shouldn't have too many concerns, but we did put some provisions in the report. As well as there is a number of utilities on line 84, mainly gas lines, which are quite large we needed to avoid, as well as there is a large gas line to the Gresta property. But if anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Widener. At this time, there is the opportunity for assessed landowners to ask questions. Let's start with them. I believe we have one with us this evening, Mr. Lansing, who is assessed on this drain. Mr. Lansing, did you have any questions or comments you wish to make to council?
No, not at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. Council, are there any questions that you have pertaining to this matter? I don't think we're seeing any evidence of that from council at this point in time. So at this time, assuming that no one has withdrawn, I don't think we've seen any evidence of that, and we haven't had significant concerns raised. This meeting too, at this time, may be adjourned. Next then is a motion to reconvene into regular open council. I have that copy with me here that says that the public meetings for the purpose of the Drainage Act are now adjourned at 7:29 p.m. And the council reconvened into regular open council. Councillor Duncan, welcome. Will you serve as our mover for that?
Yes, I'll make that motion.
Thank you very much. And Deputy Mayor Kellum, will you serve as our seconder?
Yes, I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. That's a new view. I haven't seen that one before. That was exciting. Well, we're learning things tonight. Our interim clerk is finding some new features that we didn't know about. All right. Thank you very much. Council, that brings us back into session. And at this time, let's take up these matters the legislation for these matters from the table. I have a few resolutions here for our consideration. The first is related to the acceptance of the drainage report. It reads as follows: the Council of the Municipality of North Perth will accept the Logan Maitland Municipal Drain Report dated December 22nd, 2021, prepared by Spreet Associates. Councillor Johnston, can I call on you to serve as our mover?
Yes, I would certainly move that.
Thank you. Councillor Richardson, will you be our seconder?
I'll second that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate on this matter? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Next up is the Court of Revision date setting. Reads as follows: the Council of the Municipality of North Perth will hold a Court of Revision for the Logan Maitland Municipal Drain on March 7th, 2022 at 6:20 p.m. Councillor Rothwell, will you serve as our mover for that?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. Councillor Seiler, will you be our seconder?
Yes, I'll second that. Thank you.
Any discussion or debate on this one? Seeing none, let's have that vote. That is carried. Thank you. And finally, we have the bylaw. It reads as follows: that bylaw number 3-2022 being a bylaw to provide drainage works, the Logan Maitland Municipal Drain, be introduced, read, and considered read a first and second time, I get it right yet, and be provisionally adopted, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Andreessen, can you do the moving honors for this one?
Yes, I'll make that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Anstep, will you be our seconder for that?
Yes, I would second that motion. Thank you.
Thanks. Any discussion or debate on the bylaw? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you very much. Next drain, this Hamilton and Green drains. Again, 3 items, council. The first is the resolution about the report. It reads as follows: that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth will accept the Hamilton Green Municipal Drain Report dated December 23rd, 2021, prepared by Spreet Associates. Councillor Behrens, will you serve as mover for that one?
Yes, I will move that motion.
Thank you. Councillor Duncan, will you be our seconder?
Yes, I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Next up is the Court of Revision date setting. That the Council of the Municipality of North Perth will hold the Court of Revision for the Hamilton Green Municipal Drain on March 7th, 22 at 6:30 p.m. Deputy Mayor Kellum, will you serve as our mover for that one?
Yes, I'll make that motion.
Thank you. And Councillor Johnston, will you serve as our seconder for that?
Yes, I would second that.
Thank you very much. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. And finally, we have the bylaw for this matter. That reads as follows: that bylaw number 4-2022 being a bylaw to provide for drainage works, Hamilton Green Municipal Drain, be introduced, read, and considered read a first and second time and be provisionally adopted. That the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Richardson, will you move that?
I'll move that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Rothwell, will you serve as our seconder?
Yes, I will.
Thank you very much. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried as well. Thank you very much. And that brings us back next to our delegation. Tonight we have a delegation, and I'd like to welcome Mr. Joseph Wagler of Joseph Wagler Homes. He wishes to address council on the issue of additional water and sewer connections in housing developments, I believe. And just a quick reminder that our general approach is the delegations are limited to 10 minutes to address council. Mr. Wagler, the floor is yours. Welcome. Mr. Wagler, are you with us? You might be on mute. There's a button that
yes. Good evening. I'm requesting an extra hookup for each lot on lot 38 Kiesel and lot 39 Kiesel for water and sewer connection.
I see. And we don't currently have those connections in place, obviously. Mr. Couch?
No.
Okay, thank you. Maybe I'll direct to Mr. Couch. Mr. Couch, did you wish to offer comment on this?
Thank you, Mayor Kiesenberg, members of council, Mr. Wagler. Staff has reviewed this under subdivision review and site plan review, as well as the county through planning. The request, and I'll speak on behalf of the delegation, is simply that additional services be placed in new developing subdivisions. And this does happen typically in a development process, but early on when the sites are built or bought, and then they are added at a time before road base, curb, and the rest of the infrastructure is in place. So this is coming along later in the process after what we call stage one acceptance in the subdivision has happened, when we've accepted all the sewers and the water and the roads are built and the curb lines are in place. So that's what the request is regarding. Although these requests have been accepted in the past under large block developments when there's been 6 or 8 units, the municipality and staff have said that they would prefer that these not be installed at such a late date because it impacts the new infrastructure that's just been put down, cutting through the road, cutting through the curbs, stubbing off water leads, stubbing off sanitary leads, and cutting in new sanitary services or water services in brand new infrastructure. So that's the issue in front of us. So I've spoken with Mr. Wagler about this and explained the difficulty, although he is applying for this right now and appealing to council, and I'm speaking on his behalf, and he can certainly speak again. But what we'll do is provide a clearer process for accepting or rejecting application of these types of services in subdivisions. Although we've said no in the past, there needs to be a detailed process with probably environmental services and public works putting together what will be a servicing application for it. So it's clear to builders when we do and when we do not accept these types of applications and additions or service installations. So I hope I framed it correctly. The difference here is it's a brand new developing subdivision with brand new infrastructure. We are fully in ownership of the road in that subdivision, so we can accept or reject these based on the application itself. We have the authority to do that. So I think in response, I'll just say that within hopefully the next 2 weeks, we can bring back that procedure and a response to the delegation in terms of whether this is acceptable or not acceptable.
Okay, thank you for that explanation, Mr. Couch. Mr. Wagler, Mr. Couch is proposing that staff have the opportunity to bring forward a report back to council as I'm following the explanation from Mr. Couch. And that will be a delay until our next meeting, which is 2 Mondays from now. So at this point, is that an acceptable approach to you to just sort of wait this out for 2 more weeks?
Well, the only thing I'm asking is that you treat me the same as you have the other builders in the subdivision. There's been 6 to 8 connections in the last probably year in the subdivision there. And I feel like if I can't get to ask for 2 connections, if you've been giving other builders connections, you're really not being fair to me. That's my only plea.
Okay.
I would like to have the same opportunity.
Certainly, I think we will take note of that. Staff is taking note of that concern, that there may be a concern around fairness of treatment. And I trust that that will be appropriately addressed in our staff report. So thank you for raising that with us. Okay, last opportunity for comments at this point or questions from council. Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, I just wonder, is this request in relation to further lot intensification? Is that why we're making this request at this point?
Thank you, Councillor Duncan. Let's go to Mr. Wagler first as the proponent here. Is this because you are adding extra lots in that block or that area?
So right now, under the subdivision, I'm allowed to have another secondary unit on the property, right? So I have permits for 2 units on those lots.
Okay, I think that helps us. Mr. Couch, do you have anything to add on this one?
Yes, and as I spoke earlier, I've talked to the county planner, and the process is fully in support of more densification in these areas. So it's not the fact that the additional lot has been put in place. In fact, that's very much supported. It's the additional servicing for the second unit and not using the single services that were already provided for it. It does limit the usage and perhaps the marketability of the building, but I would have to let the builder speak to that. But we're not in opposition at all to the added unit. It's the additional servicing coming at a late date.
Mr. Wagler, did you want to add anything since Mr. Couch suggested?
Yes, so it's always better to have the second connection if you have 2 units versus running everything through one pipe and supply.
Okay, thank you. I think we probably should pursue the report approach just to make sure that we have all these things considered, including the concerns raised by Mr. Wagler to Mr. Couch. Council is in general agreement with that. CEO Snow. Okay, Councillor Seiler.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Lyndon, will you be bringing us a financial report with that report back to us on the costs of what it's going to cost after and before? Thank you.
Yes, I can provide that.
Thanks. Anything further, Councillor Seiler? Okay. So the suggestion is that we direct staff to bring forward a report in response to this delegation. Is that we need a resolution for that to that end? CEO Snell, yes, we should have a resolution for that end. So let's consider that we're directing staff to bring forward a report in response to the delegation by Mr. Wagler and pertaining to the issue of additional service connections. Diesel Lane, yes. Councillor Seiler, would you serve as the mover of that?
I sure will move that. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Andreessen will be our seconder for that one.
Yes, I'll second that motion.
Thank you very much. Any discussion or debate from council? All right, let me just sort of check in the chamber that we have a vote possible here. We do, so let's have that vote. Okay, and that is carried. Mr. Wagler, thank you for participating tonight in our democratic process. We appreciate hearing your voice and your concerns, and we expect that in 2 weeks' time at our next council meeting, we'll have some more information and resolution for you. At this time, you're welcome to exit the call.
Thank you.
All right, council, let's move forward from item 4. That allows us to get on to item 5. This is the reports from departments and key staff. We have no report this evening from the CAO's department. I can assure you that with the double duty and more that CAO Snell is very, very busy, and his team as well. Next up is item 5.2, reports from our clerk's department. And let's go through what we have here. We have for item 5.2.1, the opportunity, as we do have each year, to appoint a delegate to the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority Board. Our council has been served by Councillor Matt Duncan for the last 3 years of this term of council, and he has consented, as I understand it, to serve another term, another year on our behalf. We have a resolution that would enable this. Does anyone wish to proceed otherwise? Okay, we're not seeing any indication of that. Matt, thank you for stepping forward on this one. So the resolution reads as follows. The Council of the Municipality of North Perth appoints Councillor Matt Duncan to the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority Board of Directors and the Maitland Source Protection Authority for 2022. Councillor Anstick, will you serve as a mover for this one?
Yes, I would. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Behrens, will you be our seconder?
Absolutely. Yes, I'll second that motion.
Thank you very much. Any discussion or debate? Matt, any misgivings? It seems like it's all good. All right, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you very much. And congratulations, Councillor Duncan. We appreciate your service. Item 5.2.2, staff is recommending approval of an application for part lot control by Euro Custom Homes, addressing ability to create individual lots of record in a townhouse development on Keeso Lane in the Listowel ward. The approval of this recommendation would forward this item to Perth County Council for its approval. We call on County of Perth planner Sean Yilmaz, who works on files related to North Perth, to explain the request on this matter. Mr. Yilmaz, as always, welcome.
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor Kaysenberg, members of North Perth Council. The applicant is seeking approval to exempt part lot control provisions of Block 67 of Registered Plan 44M72. Block 67 currently contains 2 4-unit townhomes for a total of 8 units. Each lot would have 1 dwelling unit of a townhouse dwelling. The applicant is requesting an exemption from part lot control provisions to establish 8 conveyable parcels. Each lot has appropriate public road frontage along Keeso Lane, with each proposed lot having individual service connections to municipal servicing. Appropriate access and drainage easements are provided. The dwellings are currently constructed and have received occupancy permits. The subject lands are within the residential 5 zone, with townhouse dwellings being a permitted use. A minor variance was approved for the subject lands through application for a minor variance A10-2020, which granted relief from several provisions and which was discussed in the staff report. As such, all of the dwellings and proposed parcels meet the provisions and regulations of the North Perth zoning bylaw. The removal of part lot control to establish lot lines between units of townhouse dwellings is an accepted method of lot creation under the Planning Act. As such, it is staff's recommendation that council approve the application for a part lot control exemption. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yilmaz. Any questions or first comments from council? Okay, we're not seeing any. So as usual with these kinds of applications, we have 2 items here in store for consideration. That the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approve the application by Euro Custom Homes Inc. for the exemption of part lot control on lands described as Block 67 of Plan 44M72 Keeso Lane in the Listowel ward, Municipality of North Perth. If the proposed bylaw is adopted, it shall be forwarded to the County of Perth for approval. Councillor Duncan, will you serve as our mover on this one?
Yes, I'll make that motion.
Thank you. And Deputy Mayor Kellum, will you serve as our seconder?
Yes, I will second that motion.
Thanks. Any discussion or debate? Let's have that vote. And that is carried. Next, then bylaw number 17-2022, being a bylaw to exempt from part lot control, block 67, plan 44M72, Keso Lane, Listowel Ward in the municipality of North Perth, be introduced, read, and considered read a first, second, and third time, be finally passed, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Johnston, will you serve as our mover for this one?
Yes, I would move that.
Thank you. And Councillor Richardson, will you be our seconder?
I'll second that motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. For item 5.2.3, council is asked to receive a report on an application for consent to sever related to lands in the Wallace ward as brought forward by owner Henricus Vermouth. Council is further asked to make a recommendation on this application to Perth County Council. I'll call on County of Perth planner Sean Yilmaz, who works on North Perth files, to explain the request on this one. Again, Mr. Yilmaz, welcome.
Thank you again. Sorry, just pulling this up. The property owner of the subject lands has applied for a consent to sever an existing farm dwelling, which has been deemed surplus to the needs of a consolidated farm operation. Sorry. I'm sorry. The consent sketch illustrates a proposed severed lot with a lot frontage of approximately 75 meters along Road 157 and a lot area of approximately 0.51 hectares or 1.26 acres. The proposed severed lot contains an existing one-story farm dwelling with a storage shed, a well, and a weeping bed. The proposed retained farm lot would have a lot frontage of, I'm so sorry about this. The proposed retained farm lot would have a lot frontage of approximately 219 meters along Road 157 with a total lot area of approximately 17 hectares or 42 acres. The proposed retained farm lot contains farmland and no buildings. The Walter Drain and the Nebel Drain bisect the property. Decisions on consent to sever applications must be consistent with the provincial policy statement. The proposed consent application would result in the severance of a dwelling that is surplus to a farming operation, resulting from farm consolidation. And it is the opinion of staff that the proposed severed lot is the minimum size needed to accommodate the use and the appropriate water and sewage services. Additionally, as required by the PPS, the retained farm parcel will be rezoned to prohibit the establishment of a future residential dwelling. The area subject to the severance is within the agricultural designation of the County of Perth official plan. Specific County of Perth official plan policies applicable to this application include section 5631 and section 16.3. Staff have reviewed the application against the requirements and conclude that the proposed surplus farm dwelling severance conforms with these policies. This is discussed in more detail in the staff report. A condition of consent has been included that would impose restrictions on future uses of the severed and retained lot through a site-specific amendment to the North Perth zoning bylaw. Staff have no objection to the proposed consent to sever, subject to the conditions of consent included with the resolution. As such, it is staff's recommendation that North Perth Council recommend the County of Perth Land Division Committee to approve the application for consent. Sorry again. Thank you.
It's actually a very charming thing, Mr. Yilmaz, although the temptation, the imp in me suggests that you should read all 10 of the conditions just for our enjoyment. Okay, thank you for your report and recommendation. Councillors, questions or first comments? Councillor Rothwell?
Thanks very much, Mayor Todd. And the question is for our planner, Sean. It's nice to see you got your child with you as well here. My question is, when we look at the report photo, it appears as though there's a barn there, and I notice it's not in the survey sketch, but the report doesn't say specifically that the barn was removed. Could you just confirm that for me? Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. That is a good question. Yeah, that barn has since been removed. Just an old air photo.
Thanks very much. Just it'd be good to incorporate that in the report at future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rothwell. Any other questions or first comments? All right, I have a resolution for our consideration, and I've gotten wiser as mayor in year 4 of my mandate not to read all these conditions. They are in the report, so I will read the first part of the resolution and hope that council, especially Councillor Johnston, understands my desire not to read everything here. That the Council of the Municipality of North Perth received the report entitled Application for Consent to Sever, number B38/21, by Henricus Vermoo, owner, affecting lands described as Lot 19 and 20, Concession 5, Wallace Ward, Municipality of North Perth, 8826 Road 157, dated January 24th, 2022, for information. And that the council recommends that the County of Perth Land Division Committee or its designate approve the application for consent to sever number B38-21, described as Lot 19 and 20, Concession 5, Wallace Ward, Municipality of North Perth, 8826 Road 157, subject to the following conditions. There are 10. 4 of them are from the county and 6 of them are from North Perth. Can I call on Councillor Rothwell to be our mover for this one?
I so move.
Thank you. Councillor Seiler, will you be our seconder for that one?
I will second that. Thank you.
Next, any discussion or debate on this matter? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Yilmaz. Thank you, young one, for joining us in the meeting tonight. And we can move forward to item 5.3. For item 5.3, this is reports from the programs department. We don't have reports emanating from that department this evening, but they are, of course, working diligently with a range of changes that occur seemingly all the time related to the pandemic. Next then is item 5.4, reports from our facilities department. For our one item here, we have the opportunity to approve various increases for recreation fees, including facility rentals and services attached to North Perth offerings and assets. These were approved by committees tasked with giving us such advice to this point. And I'm going to call on North Perth Manager of Facilities, Jeff Newell, to comment on the report and its recommendations and the bylaw revision before us. Welcome, Mr. Newell.
Thank you, Mayor Kaysenberg and members of council. Good evening. Yes, with regards to amendments to Schedule H, which is our recreation rates and fees for the upcoming year, they have been presented to both the Elma Logan Recreation Committee and the Recreation Advisory Committee, and they were forwarded to council for consideration. These rates would come into effect in May of this coming year. The fees represent a response to increases for annual expenditures in order to run recreation facilities. In many cases, the fees have remained the same as they were in previous years or gone up slightly. You will see in the attached document that there's been a schedule of fee increases over the last number of years, and this year is in keeping with previous years. That being said, the recommendation is that the Council of Municipality North Perth approves the amended fees for Schedule H recreation rates and fees effective May 1st, 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Newell. Council, first comments or questions on this matter? And we're not seeing any, so let me read the resolution that will enable this bylaw. The resolution is as follows: that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approves the amended Schedule H recreation rates and fees effective May 1st, 2022. And that bylaw number 16-2022 being a bylaw to amend the North Perth rates and fees bylaw be introduced, read, and considered read a first, second, and third time and be finally passed, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Andreessen, will you serve as our mover for this one?
Yes, I'll make that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Anstett, will you be our seconder?
Yes, I would second that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any discussion or debate on this one? We're not seeing any, so let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you very much. Let's move forward to item 5.5. As item 5.5.1, finance staff has brought forward for council review the accounts as of this day, January 24th, 2022. This account listing represents expenditures for all municipal services, including Perth Meadows operations, but does not include the incoming revenues that offset these expenses. I'll note that some councillors have declared a potential pecuniary interest in this item and will absent themselves for consideration and voting. Are there any questions about this report for our staff? Seeing none, I have a resolution that reads as follows: that the following summary of accounts be received by council for information. The total is $3,019,542.87. Can I call on Councillor Duncan to be our mover for this one?
Yes, I'll make that motion.
Thank you. And Councillor Johnston, will you serve as our seconder?
Yes, I would second that.
Thank you very much. Any discussion or debate on this report? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried with the abstentions noted. Thank you. Let's move forward to item 5.5.2. Council is asked to amend a drainage provisioning bylaw as a result of the updated final cost of the work. I think I'll call on Fran Hale, our treasurer and director of finance, just for a few comments to review this matter. Ms. Hale, are you with us?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Kiesenberg, members of council. The English Municipal drain is complete. It's come in under budget by about 7%. And this evening, the final cost being $57,776.38. We're ready to bill out, and we ask council for permission under bylaw to do so.
Thank you, Ms. Hale. Any questions or first comments on this matter from council? Seeing none, I have a resolution for our consideration. It reads as follows: that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth pass bylaw 11-2022, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 93-2020 for the construction of the English Municipal drain, be introduced, read, and considered read a first, second, and third time, and be finally passed, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Barnes, are you prepared to move that?
Yes, I can move that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. And Deputy Mayor Kellum, will you serve as our seconder?
Yes, I will second that motion.
Thank you very much. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you very much. It brings us to item 5.5.3. And this one, staff is bringing forward a recommendation from our engineer pertaining to the watershed mapping, the Turnbull Municipal drain. Part of this area overlaps with the residential area, and the engineer has asked for direction to consider that area as a single block for the purposes of assessment against the cost of the drainage works that will come forward. I'm going to ask again our treasurer, Fran Hale, to offer comments on this. I haven't seen one like this before, Fran, so if you would, please.
Thank you, Mayor Kiesenberg, members of council. I think you summarized it very well, Mayor Kiesenberg. Council has the authority to do this under Section 25 of the Drainage Act. And our consulting engineer and our drainage superintendent have made this recommendation to council. Council can see the diagram, and it's the area that is highlighted in kind of a pinky mauve color. And that would be the area in which they're recommending that we do a block assessment for this particular drain. And at this point, we would need council's resolution to direct our consulting engineer to proceed in this manner.
Okay, thank you. So council, any questions or first comments on this? Seeing none, I have a resolution to the effect of the recommendation. It reads as follows: that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth direct Dietrich Engineering Limited to assess the area denoted in purple within the Turnbull Municipal Drain Watershed Mapping as a block assessment under Section 25, subsection 1 of the Drainage Act, RSO 1990. And I call on Deputy Mayor Kellum to be our mover for this one.
Yes, I'll make that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Johnston, will you serve as our seconder?
Yes, I would second that.
Thank you very much. Any discussion or debate? It's always exciting to have a different one. Let's have that vote. Are we missing someone?
Councillor Rothwell.
Councillor Rothwell, what say you?
I'm in favor. My vote just didn't go through, I guess. Sorry.
Thank you. And that therefore is carried. Thank you very much. Thanks, Ms. Hale. Tonight we have no reports from our Environmental Services Department as item 5.6. They are, as always, diligently at work. That allows us to move to item 5.7, reports from our Manager of Operations. For item 5.7.1, Council is asked to award the tenders for work on several drains that are in the neighborhood of each other to Ron H. Williams Drainage. I think I'm inviting our Finance and Purchasing Assistant to address this one, Mr. White, Josh White. Welcome. Is Josh with us? Okay, so Josh might not be with us. Mr. Couch or Ms. Hale?
I can speak to that. Thanks. Yes, coordination with the drainage superintendent and certainly with the purchasing assistant. We put together a recommendation based on the engineer's review. These three drains came forward to council in December of last year. And if we look at the comments and the summaries, the engineer's estimate was almost exactly accurate. And the bids came in at $328,000 total. And again, as Mayor Kiesenberg has pointed out, Ron Williams Drainage is recommended for award as the low bid in all three drains. And that recommendation is in front of council tonight for construction to commence this year.
Thank you, Mr. Couch, for filling in the details there. Any questions or first comments for the team? Okay, we're not seeing any. I have noted an intended abstention from Councillor Behrens. I have a resolution for our consideration that reads as follows: that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth award the tenders of the Barton Drain, NP 015-21T, the Bearfelds Drain, NP-016-21T, and the Reed Drain, NP-017-21T, to Ron H. Williams Drainage, Inc. for a total of $328,376 added up through the three projects, excluding HST. And I call on Councillor Richardson to be a mover for this one.
I'll move that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Rothwell, will you serve as our seconder?
Yes, I'll second the motion.
Thank you very much. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you very much. Now that allows us to turn to item 5.8, reports from the fire department. We have no reports this evening from the fire department, but I can tell you they had a strangely busy last 6 or 7 days. I know that we owe them much appreciation for their services in that period of time. That moves us along to item number 6 on our agenda. For item 6.1, councillors, are there any reports you would like to ask of staff or our committees? The usual request to speak approach is in the works. CAO Snell, are we seeing anything at this point? We're not seeing anything. Thank you. So let's move on to item 7. We have received no additional items of correspondence which require our action. That brings us to item 8 on our agenda, which allows council to consider bylaws. We have a few tonight for our consideration. First, as item 8.1, council is invited to approve a bylaw to amend our earlier agreement with the province of Ontario pertaining to the provision of police services. This one warrants perhaps a few comments from CAO Snell. Let me just set the AV settings so we don't create a black hole. Hold on.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So tonight's bylaw really just amends our current OPP contract and it extends it for 1 year based on the previous discussions around the Police Services Board and the royal assent of the new act, which we have not been given a date for, but this does extend our current bylaw or our current contract for that 1 year until we see what the government's doing with the new policing act. I'm happy to answer any questions council may have.
Thank you, CAO Snell. So, council, are there any questions about this matter? We're sort of in a holding pattern. We're waiting for some more guidance from the province for our next contract. All right, I have a resolution then for our consideration. It reads as follows: that bylaw number 12-2022, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 157-2017, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with Her Majesty the Queen in right of Ontario as represented by the Ministry of the Solicitor General for the provision of the police services contract, be introduced, read, and considered read a first, second, and third time, and be finally passed, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Seiler, can I call on you to be our mover for this one?
I will move that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Andreessen, will you be our seconder?
Yes, I'll second that motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any discussion or debate? Question? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Next up is item 8.2. Council is invited to approve a bylaw for the appointment of a new deputy fire chief. Are there any questions from council about this matter before we consider it? Seeing none, let's bring the resolution to the floor then. That bylaw 13-2022, being a bylaw to appoint an assistant fire chief, be introduced, read, and considered read a first, second, and third time, and be finally passed, and said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Can I call on Councillor Anstead to be our mover for this one?
Yes, I would move that motion. Thank you.
And Councillor Behrens, will you be our second?
Yes, I will second that.
Thank you very much. Any discussion or debate? Let's have that vote. And that is carried. And let me be the first to express this council's appreciation and congratulations to Dennis McEwen as our new Assistant Fire Chief. Next is item 8.3. Council is invited by bylaw activity to appoint a new member to the board of the Listowel Business Improvement Association. Are there any questions about this matter before we consider the resolution? Seeing no evidence of that, I have the resolution draft here as follows: that bylaw number 14-2022, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 161-2018, which is a bylaw to appoint persons, including council members, to various boards, committees, and associations, be introduced, read, and considered read a first, second, and third time, and be finally passed. The said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Can I call on Councillor Duncan to be our mover for this one?
Yes, I'll make that motion.
Thank you. And Deputy Mayor Kellum, will you serve as our seconder?
Yes, I'll second that motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any discussion or debate on this one? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you very much. Next up then is item 8.4. Council is invited to finalize the corporation's work on the improvements on the Hood number 1 municipal drain. Again, I noted a planned abstention from Councillor Bears. Are there any questions about this matter before we consider this one? Okay, we're not seeing any, so let's bring the resolution to the floor. The bylaw number 125-2021, being a bylaw to provide for a drainage works, the Hood number 1 municipal drain, be introduced, read, and considered read a third time, and be finally passed, and the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Can I call, oh, I lost track of where I was. That's terrible. Can I call on Councillor Johnston to be our mover for this one?
Certainly, I would move that.
There we go. And Councillor Richardson, will you serve as our seconder?
I'll happily second that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And are there any questions or discussion or debate here? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you very much. And that allows us now to move to agenda item number 9. Are there any councillors wishing leave to give notice of motion this evening? Okay, we're not seeing any evidence of that, so that brings us to item 10 on our agenda. For item 10.1, are there any announcements that would be of benefit to our community or that reflect well on North Perth at this time? Again, the chat window is your conduit to being recognized. And let's start with Councillor Rothwell.
Thanks very much, Mayor Todd. And it's been my pleasure today and tomorrow to be attending the Rural Ontario Municipal Association Conference. I know Mayor Todd, you are as well. And I know our CAO, Chris Snell, is there from time to time. Perhaps there's others as well, but I did provide members of council and some staff with a copy of a recently released document, which was, well, just released today from Roma, which is a detailed outline for post-COVID recovery. It's called Opportunities for Rural Ontario in a Post-COVID World, a Plan for Action. And as I said, that was just released today. It's a longer document, about 80-some pages, but I would encourage our council and staff to look at that and perhaps could be a discussion at some point in the future for our council. The Roma conference is quite full of information. We had the Premier speak, as well as Minister of Municipal Affairs, Steve Clerk, and then there was the Ministerial Roundtable and some excellent other presentations. And I look forward to providing council with an update perhaps with the mayor and CAO Snell. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rothwell. Any others wishing to make announcements that are to the benefit of North Perth or its council? Council, I'll remind that the coldest night of the year is approaching rapidly, and I would love to have as many of you as would be brave enough to join the team for North Perth. We do have a team registered for the municipality's event, and I'd love to have your social collaboration, even though it's at a distance in these COVID times. So please reach out to me if you'd like more details. All right, that brings us to item number 11. We have 3 matters tonight to be considered in a closed session of council. I will read the resolution that both explains and enables our action to enter closed session. Here it is, that this committee proceed in camera at 8:21 p.m. to address matters pertaining to 1, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. And there are 2 explanations here: council remuneration and CAO performance review. And second, a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which, if disclosed, could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organization related to the North Perth Agricultural Excellence Strategy. Can I call on Councillor Rothwell to be our mover for this one?
I so move.
Thank you. And Councillor Seiler, will you be our seconder?
I will second that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any discussion or debate here? All right, let's have that vote. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. We are going to adjourn our public session of this regular council meeting at this time. We are about to enter closed session. That means we have some audio-visual changes to make. Those who remain on this call who have not been invited to be here for the purposes of the closed session meeting should exit at this hour. And at this time, we're going to mute myself until we've made our AV changes, thanking those who have departed. And council, let's take a 10-minute break, I think, at this point. We'll pick up at 8:30 by the clock. So I guess that's a 7-minute break, 8:30 by the clock. Right, we need to test the feed to YouTube. Councillor Richardson, you're usually pretty quick off the draw on this one. Can you check to see if we are broadcasting to YouTube appropriately now? Okay, very good. I am advised that YouTube is live and that we are resuming our public session of council. As for item 12 on our agenda, I can report the council has held discussions on the 3 items that were identified in our resolution to hold an in-camera session. We kept those topics as per statute. I can also advise that council has asked that we bring forward a resolution to be conducted in open session for the purposes of enacting at least one piece of the business that we did in our closed session tonight. And so I have a resolution draft here that hopefully makes sense. That the Council of the Municipality of North Perth accepts a proposal from MK&A for the amount of $30,000 plus HST for the purposes of developing the North Perth Agricultural Excellence Strategy as submitted to Council on January 20th, 2022. That's the resolution. I'm not sure whether our team is keeping up with this, but we're hoping so. Chris, you think we're sort of essentially there. Can I call? Okay. We think we have the text council generally captured. Councillor Barons, can I call on you to be the mover for this one?
Yes, I'll make that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Duncan, will you be our seconder?
Yes, I'll second that.
Thank you very much. Any discussion or debate in open session about this resolution? We're not seeing any indication of that. Can we conduct this vote with eScribe, Chris? All right, here we go. And that is unanimously carried. Thank you very much. We have no other business coming from the closed session to transact at this hour. Council, as a mandated good practice, acts near the end of its meeting agenda to confirm all of its actions of business of its meeting through what is called the confirmatory bylaw. I have the draft of a confirmatory bylaw here for presentation to council. That bylaw number 18-2022 being a bylaw to confirm generally previous actions of the Council of the Municipality of North Perth be introduced, read, and considered read a first, second, and third time and be finally passed, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. And I call on Councillor, let's see here, Councillor Johnston, can you serve as our mover for this one?
Yes, I would move that.
Thank you. And Councillor Richardson, will you serve as our second?
I will second that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any discussion or debate on this one? Let's have that vote. And with our noted abstentions of those who have declared pecuniary interest, that is carried. Let us then move to the happy point. I think for most of us at the end of these meetings, we have completed all the deliberations and taken action on the business that did come before us tonight. Councillors, I have a motion to adjourn that reads simply as follows, that the council meeting adjourns at 10:25 p.m. to meet again for general council business on Monday, February 7th at 7 p.m. And I call on Councillor Rothwell to be our mover.
I'll be happy to do so.
Thank you. And Councillor Seiler, will you serve as our seconder?
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's not debatable, so let's have that vote. That is carried. And with that, council, thank you for an interesting meeting as always. We will call this meeting adjourned at this hour. Night, everyone.